Hello, darling. Lady Monique, Monique LaFemme here. Um, this video is going to be a little different from the usual thing I do. This is a true life story. It's my story. It's the story of my childhood and my emergence as a young woman, and it's a rather unique one. If you're interested in just a quick sex story, this isn't for you. But if you want to really know more about me, this defines me. My childhood was a nightmare that no child should ever have to endure. I was born into an upper middle class family with loving parents and a loving family. My mother even accepted my girlishness and fondness for pretty things. I was born with a left leg and wasn't exactly suitable for male sports. I had to wear a little built-up heel on one leg, but that's all. And I used to dance around the garden, imagining I was Grace Kelly. Life was good, and I was very happy until I turned 7 years old and was sucked down into the pits of hell. As I said, my male organs were not the only birth defects I had to cope with. Despite my refusal, a couple of really big-time San Francisco orthopedic surgeons talked my parents into letting them perform a new, revolutionary surgical procedure on my left leg. Read that as experimental, with me as the lab rat. I tried to run away from home, but they caught me and forced me and 6 other children with similar conditions to undergo their elective operation. What follows isn't very nice, but to understand me, you have to hear it. They cut my leg open, broke the bone in the middle, put 5 steel rods clear through my leg, and attached them to a spring apparatus reminiscent of the medieval rack used to torture prisoners during the Spanish Inquisition. Every morning for 9 long, excruciating months, a doctor would tighten the spring, slowly stretching my leg apart. And every day during those months, I'd scream in agony, begging them to stop, begging a deaf God to take my life and end my suffering. Anything. Until I would finally pass out from exhaustion, just to wake up to a new morning and see a doctor coming towards me with his little spring tightening wrench, and my screaming and torment would begin again. They didn't have nerve blocks back then to give us. They couldn't give us morphine to 7-year-old children every day for the 280 days they ripped the nerves in my legs apart. My memories of those days come often to me in nightmares, and I wake up screaming and crying like the child I was and still in many ways remain. All of these early leg lengthening operations were complete failures, and after forcing all of us to endure 9 months of agony, the doctors gave up on us, told our parents that we'd all contracted a fatal staph infection in our bone marrow. Suddenly we were just an infectious health risk to others, locked up in cages waiting to die. I knew the 6 other children, one of them my lovely bright-eyed Teresa. Teresa's beautiful smile was the first girl I ever kissed, first person I ever loved. Some godforsaken idiot at the hospital thought we should bond together to form a support group, since we would all be going through the same wonderful experience. They even provided us with a party and a dinner before anybody had surgeries where all of us and our families could meet and become friends. Well, they had become my friends, my only friends, and they all died, even my Teresa. Only I survived to endure the next 7 years locked away alone, friendless, in a hospital isolation unit in San Francisco. Well, my childhood wasn't normal. It haunts me every day of my life. At least I didn't have to endure a lot of the crap most transsexual girls go through. The unenlightened adults in those days may not have understood my inherent femininity, but they left me alone. One of the RNs even gave me some makeup and taught me how to apply it. See, only MDs and registered nurses were allowed in isolation, and they were always too busy to stay, no matter how lonely I was. But sometimes, late at night, one nurse would come to my room to pamper me with girlish luxuries like jasmine scented perfume and soft body lotion, which helped to cut the ever-present odor of the drainage constantly oozing from the surgical wound. Nurse Nancy would brush and style my long curly hair, even give me a manicure and with glistening pink nail polish. She treated me like the daughter she never had, and I used to dream at night that she would take me home with her, help me escape from this foul prison, and raise me as her daughter. A side note, if you happen to be out there, Nancy, and see this, I love you always. Everyone treated me like I was dead already, just some silly sissy not worth the time to bother with. You saw a lonely, confused little girl, terrified out of her mind. A frail and sick 10-year-old child who wanted desperately to live and who needed the understanding and love you gave me. While the priests were giving me last rites, doctors telling me to prepare for the end, and even my parents had given up on me. You read me children's stories like Cinderella and Snow White, stories filled with happy endings for a girl who believed in miracles. Somehow you gave me hope that I might yet grow up to be a woman like you. Other hospital personnel noticed as I started taking pride in my grooming, something I'd never done before. I began washing and scrubbing my face, brushing and styling my growing long curly tresses, and just blatantly wearing the pale pink lipstick and powder blue eyeshadow and the brown mascara that you gave me. After all, they didn't care. What did it matter if I liked girlish things? I was going to die soon anyway. But I never gave up. I never surrendered until the day I heard Teresa died. All I can remember about that is, for the first time, hopeless despair came crashing in on me. And I remember crying endlessly, on and on. I'm told that I became so emaciated they had to give me an IV to feed me through my veins. Even after all these years, you can still see the scars on my right arm where I ripped the old-fashioned metal needles out of my arm. Anyway, somehow I survived. I surprised everyone. Because by the time I emerged from my medical prison at age 14, I was a young woman, and they had to accept me as such. Fortunately, I was spared most of the ravages of testosterone. Although I was born with testicles, my body never produced a normal amount of male hormone. This also accounts for my gynecomastia, the natural breast development that many boys like myself have at puberty. So, and happily too, for all the 7 years I was quarantined in isolation, I was spared the cutting shears of a barber. So like a butterfly, I emerged from my cocoon with pert little A-cup breasts and a full head of dark, curly, black hair that reached down past my shoulders. End of part 1. Please stay and listen to part 2. Bye, darling, for now. If I can shut this off.